And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the RBLR Rays podcast. This is Zach, your co-host. My normal partner in crime sprained his ankle rounding the bases on his victory lap for all of his recent takes that have just come to fruition. But pinch hitting for him, we have a very special guest, old friend of mine, Ulises Sambrano. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Zach. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really, really well. This is kind of full circle for me because my first foray into podcasting, or at least my first ever appearance on a podcast, was actually on your show, the Locked On Rays show, a couple years ago. And ever since, I kind of got the bug a little bit when I appeared on you guys' show. Just kind of was looking for opportunities, and things worked out here at RBLR. It's been a huge, awesome thing for me. So I can owe a little bit of that beginning to you guys. So this is super exciting to have you on.
Well, it's really cool to see that progression happen, and I'm really happy that you get to talk ball every week.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and you guys are also still doing your thing, Locked On Rays. I appreciate you guys doing the not quite basically daily shows, because it's a kind of a different level of analysis than what we're doing, and it's really cool to see you have different things for all the Rays fans out there. We got our show that's weekly, you got your show it's a little bit more frequent. It's just really cool that our fan base has so many different avenues to get their content.
That's definitely. And when we got into the scene, it was basically Rays Radio, the podcast that was really going. I know D Race Bay had a podcast, but they had kind of dissolved it by then. So we really kind of became the thing. And then it's really nice to see all of the moving parts, because this fandom deserves more than one podcast for sure.
They absolutely do. And if you want to be a bigger part of this fandom, you can like and subscribe to RBLR Sports on YouTube. We're doing a lot of stuff on YouTube now. We may be doing some watch along sometime in the future here. We'll see. We'll keep you guys updated. But like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Like and subscribe to me on Twitter. Ulises on Twitter as well. The Locked On Rays podcast. We'll make sure we get a good plug in there later on in the show. But yeah, like and subscribe. We're doing a lot of really fun stuff moving forward. But moving forward through the last week here, the Rays took the series against Milwaukee after winning the first game, which we covered a little bit on the last episode, and then winning the game on Saturday, losing the game on Sunday. It was kind of it was a back and forth series. I think that last game, I thought we had a chance to win, just couldn't pull it off. But it was always love a good interleague series. It's fun to see how we match up against the other contenders in the league. I don't know if Milwaukee's going to be there in the postseason. It's their division is kind of weird. I'm not sure what to expect from that division, but I feel like Milwaukee has as good a chance as anyone else in that division to end up in the postseason.
I think the most fun that you can have, that a lot of teams can have, or fandoms rather, is talk trash about both central divisions, because it seems like forever they've just been crap. And when you look at the AL Central Division, you see that all of them basically have worse records than every single team in the AL East. And then you go to the NL Central and you have a franchise like the St. Louis Cardinals now starting to get a little bit better, but being dead last in a situation where you have the Cincinnati Reds that are like 3 games away from first, the Chicago Cubs, the Pirates were having a revelation in April. So both central divisions are always kind of funky, at least in the last 5-10 years. So it'd be interesting with Milwaukee. Of course, we have old friends in Brasso and Willie Adames and Ozzie Timmons there, so it's always good to see them. Hopefully, Willie is doing fine. By the way, he did get the other day, so hopefully he's doing okay. But always good to see those guys, and I'm glad that Willie actually had some fun with Randy and with the posting. I think that's great. I if any Rays fans felt negative about it, I think just level up a little bit. Like that's fun.
I think that people that get upset about trash talking generally are just wet blankets, but especially that, because those are guys they're just having fun with one another, and that they're dapping each other up after the game. They're having a good time. I always love when Willie comes back to the Trop. Of course, he managed to hit a home run, which I thought he couldn't hit in the Trop. He hit just fine in the series against us, which is he always seems to do that. Like every time he comes back to the Trop, it's like, I thought we traded you because you couldn't hit in the Trop, and now here you are hitting bombs. This is great. But he's is just a fun player to watch. It's one of those things where especially with how well Taylor Walls is playing this year, his days were going to be numbered. No matter what, and the Rays organization, just because of the way things are. But it was very sad to see him go, and I miss him every time I see him doing something fun. He just has such an infectious energy about him, which I'm really glad to see Siri kind of starting to pick up some of that energy that we used to get from Willie. Siri's kind of bringing a little bit of that along with Randy, but it was definitely missing in some previous seasons. So it's always fun to see him. Yeah, going off what you said about the Central, I was curious if it was still this way, but the way the Central currently lines up. The Twins are leading the Central right now. The Blue Jays, who are 10 and a half games back of us, by the way, have the exact same record as the division leader in the Central. So, I mean, and it's funny because, people were joking this earlier in the season when the Yankees were in last place and they were also tied with the leader of the Central, that this would probably be the reason that we get rid of divisions as playoff seeding and it just becomes best record. Do you think that's something that could ever happen? Do you ever see that as something that could happen? I think, anytime in the future.
I definitely hope so. I think it would add urgency for MLB to take off the divisions and maybe do just like they do in basketball, just like 2 East and West conferences. I think if that were to happen, it would create some urgency if a really big team has a good record and is still dead last. And by that, I mean the New York Yankees. If the New York Yankees end up with an above 500 record and they're last in the AL East, which I really hope that happens, you are going to see MLB do their damnedest to help their golden child. And that they just can't have the Yankees be a good team, quote unquote, be a good team. Because, let's say they have the Rays record, 86 wins, right?
Yeah.
86 wins. And they missed the playoffs. They can't have that. Yankee fandom would be rioting in the streets, and so that would give a little bit of a push for MLB to kind of look at the situation. I don't know if necessarily you could realign within a CBA, and that fight just happened. Yeah. So I don't know if that's under the purview of the commissioner to be able to do that large scale of a change without it being in the collective bargaining agreement. So could it happen soon? Yes. But depending on if you can change that within the CBA or not. If it's not, then I think they would have to wait until 2026, if I'm not sure, because it just happened in 2021, right? For 5 years, 2021 plus 5, 6. So yeah. So they would have to wait a couple years, but I really do hope so. That because you can't just have the best teams just not go into the playoffs because of some arbitrary divisions. It doesn't make sense. The best teams should go on to the playoffs. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I understand why it's been that way, especially when, in the before times when you didn't have the wild card and then you had the one wild card, it kind of made sense. But now as the playoffs are expanding to as many teams as they are, I kind of feel like it only makes sense at this point to expand, because you're basically saying, because basically to me, I understand that they expanded the playoffs to maybe, there may have been some other reasons, but for me, the playoffs expanding for me said they want to have more of the best teams in the playoffs. They want to have more opportunity for the best teams in baseball to get it in the playoffs, to get the real best team by the end of the season. And to me, if you continue with the way they're doing it right now, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because as it stands right now, when you look at the standings, the Boston Red Sox, the Angels, the Mariners, and the Blue Jays are all looking in right now. And there's a few of those teams like the Mariners who are like they were a big storyline last year and they have some real talent. The Blue Jays have some insane talent on their team. The Angels, your 2 cornerstone superstars for your league are on the outside looking in. And that is, all of those teams I just mentioned have a better record than the Twins.
See, that's disgusting. That shouldn't happen.
You have 4 teams that are on the outside looking in right now that have a better record than your division winner. And I can't, I feel like that when you get to that level of and maybe it won't end that way, but if you end the season and you have 4 or 5 teams with a better record than the team that goes to the playoffs, I think you kind of can't, I don't think you can excuse it anymore. You kind of have to be like, this isn't working. You have to change something. And I think the fact that the schedule has expanded and everybody's playing each other now, I think we're going to really see see how good teams are and get a real look at how good these teams are. And when you do that, I think the records are going to start to get a little bit closer together. You're not going to have teams beating up on the bad teams in their division as much anymore. You're going to get these records all converging, and you're going to end up like with this big clump, and it's going to look really awkward if the division winner has a worse record than 2 or 3 of the teams that are on the outside looking in.
Very well put. I think if there are just a handful of teams that have a better record than the Central Division winner or any division, but in this case the Central, you'd be just making a mockery of what the 162 game season is. Now, you did mention something that could be the baby steps into the eradication of divisions, which is the scheduling. Now that it's been a little bit okay, everybody play everybody. I think that is the first baby step into the the eradication of divisions and maybe just making 2 leagues and just the best go at it. I think that's the first step, but like everything in baseball, when you want change, is going to take a long time. And I think with this season having the bigger bases and the pickoff attempts being reduced to 2 and the shift realignment, I think there's a lot that you're shoving into baseball fandom that I think maybe baseball wants to be like, okay, let's just let this marinate for a little bit, and then we can do a big change, like no more divisions, and that'll come, I think, in a few years, hopefully.
Yeah, it's something I would definitely like to see. I think because at the end of the day, when you look at the playoffs, when you look at the postseason, when you have your most meaningful baseball, you want to. I mean, you can't just make an excuse for like the Angels and trying to get your biggest stars in the playoffs just because you want them there. But I feel like it looks really bad. Like imagine a scenario in which the Angels have a really good run to end the year, and Ohtani and Trout are both playing really well, and you have these 2 superstars that are just bowling towards the postseason, and then they miss out on 1 game and they're 2 games better than the Twins. Like that is an abysmally bad look for baseball.
Yeah.
If your cornerstone, if your most marketable superstar is watching from home because of division alignment, that is a horrible look.
Yes.
For MLB. And I think something like that happening if either the Angels or the Yankees miss out like by this much and you have them with a better record than the Twins, that's going to set the wheels turning real quickly, because it's going to be like, okay, we can't have this again.
Yeah, no. Again, if it hurts their bottom line, and their bottom line is the Yankees not being in the playoffs, that's a huge problem for MLB. Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, everybody wanting them to be in the playoffs and not getting that, even though their team finally did something positive, I think would be a kind of a dent into their bottom lines, thinking how much money did we just lose by just having these divisions play out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely, from a bottom line perspective, I think the East they have decent viewership numbers, so I think that's definitely there. But you lose so much of your national viewership when you don't have your biggest stars. You look at the way the WBC was super popular, and it's because some of the biggest stars in baseball were playing at a very high level, and that's something that people just want to watch. And if you're missing out on that, I think that's going to massively affect what MLB does going forward.
100% agreed.
You have any other big takeaways from the Brewers series?
Not from the Brewers series. No, I think we can move on from that one.
We can move on to the Blue Jays series, which was a weird series because we took a game off in the middle. Rob Manfred just decided to give us a day off on the second game. It was very weird. I don't know why he did that, but that was cool. But we won the series, which was really, really good to see. You 4-game series are tough. That's my biggest takeaway is 4-game series are tough. Like almost every time it's tough to win a 4-game series. So anytime you win a 4-game series is good. You want to win a 4-game series at home, especially against a division opponent. But it was just really good to see them come out and take it to one of their division rivals and really kind of put them under a little bit. Cause now you're looking at them being almost 10 games back. That's a tough hill to climb. So that's something you want to be able to do anytime you can. So I consider it a very successful homestand there.
Yeah, definitely. I think with the 4-game series, you always want to, when they're interdivisional rivals like the Jays or the Yankees, you do want to take them just because then you can just stomp on their necks and then not have to worry about them, and then give that clubhouse that realization that, okay, the East might be out, we might just be a wild card team. And that's such a powerful thing to put into that clubhouse. So when you can take 3 out of 4 and get them into double digits away from the first place in AL East. That's very awesome. That's why it kind of, that Yankee series left you with a bittersweet, because you had them. You honestly could have won not only 3, but you could even swept them. So that split just feels kind of wrong. You'll take it, but it did feel kind of wrong just because they could have had, a better success right there. But with this J series, I think that's honestly the biggest takeaway from the whole week. To be honest, that coming back from such an embarrassing loss there on Tuesday, 20-1, like that's just ugly in however many languages you can say it. It was so bad. You got Randy and Wander kind of going at it in the dugout. So I think when you have that type of loss, and now you have 2 games to go, to come back and for Shane Mack and Zach Eflin to give you 7 really strong innings from both of them, giving that bullpen a little bit of a rest, and then the offense just come back and put 7 runs and 6 runs apiece and take that 4-game series. Now that is what is the cliche resilience word about sports teams. Resiliency. Like that shows that when you come back from 20-1 and you win the series, I think that's resiliency for this team.
Yeah, and it's something that I think has been what has set them apart from what happened last year. I think last year they had a tough time with that, with staying resilient through some of the, and to be fair, they were incredibly resilient through all the injuries. But when you look at a results perspective, they had trouble getting a stop when they needed it. They had trouble. I mean, Shane was doing his thing, but they didn't have. They were struggling to find the next guy to kind of do that thing sometimes, and they would not be able to either get the offensive production to get that win when they really needed it, or they weren't getting the pitching performances. And now this year, we're getting the offensive production to get those wins when we need them. And that's something that's really fun to see, is that I feel like with this team, I never feel like we're out of the game. Well, I felt like we were out of the game on Tuesday, but there's almost never do I feel like we're out of the game. I feel like there's always a chance we can always come back. And especially if it's like a 2 or 3 run game, I'm almost not worried until like the 8th inning, because of this team has just shown that they're going to put up runs, they're going to score, they're going to come back, they're going to make a charge. And that's just a really fun baseball team to watch.
Yeah, and I think you had that same feeling in 2021 with that 100-win team, where that offense was the best ever, and you always felt like they're gonna win. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna work out. The offense is gonna wake up. Like, it's good to have that feeling again, being a Rays fan, because if you've been a Rays fan for a long time, you know that it's pitching and defense, and that's the DNA. Offense is like lucky if you get some. And so when 2021 happens, you're like, holy crap, they're a tank. And then 2023, the way that it has started, you're like, oh my goodness, we actually have an offense. So it's been really, really fun. And I agree with you. Every time that there are maybe 2 runs or 3 runs down, it's really no sweat until like the 7th or 8th inning, where you're like, okay, can they pick it up? And usually they do. More often than not, that they do.
Yep, and that's just, and it's made for some really entertaining baseball games. Like even the games that we've lost, like that whole Yankee series a couple weekends ago, that was like every single one of those games was very entertaining. We talked about it on the podcast. It is playoff atmosphere. It was so entertaining, and I think that that's one thing that has been a really fun part of being a Rays fan this year, is even the losses are entertaining baseball. Like there's not a whole lot of like, we have really, that game on Tuesday was the first really bad, like, wow, that was not good. Like that was one of the first really bad games we've had. Most of the games are either fun because we're winning, or fun because it's a close game and there's exciting things happening.
I think I would have rather see the 20-1 game, because again, it was inflated with a couple of position players basically getting dinged for 10 runs. But I think for me, the loss that sucked the most was the Astros one, the 5-0 to end that series. You could have taken that series, and they end up taking it. The Rays lineup, I think, went 18, 19 innings in a row, scoreless. So like that one, I think stings more than the 20-1. The 20-1, okay, well, you couldn't do anything today. Like that was it. Like, but the 5-0, I think for me, that one's the one that's still kind of irritating my Rays soul for a little bit. But it's okay. The guys are doing well. And when you talk about coming back, they showed it again this weekend. They lost. I know maybe I'm getting ahead of myself with the Dodger series, but that game, they showed that they could still come back. They didn't, but the resiliency was still there.
The guys were on base. The script was there, just didn't get it done, and that's okay. I think when you look at this team moving forward into like the really meaningful games, because like I mean the interleague series are fun to win and it's fun to pad the win column, but I'm like so much less concerned about winning a series. It's an interleague series as opposed to a divisional series. So it's fun to win those series, but what you do get to see is how your team handles those close games, because you don't get to see those pitchers a lot. So you're seeing kind of what you really have with your team, and what we're seeing is a team that is going to compete in every single game they play, and it's going to keep it close and give themselves a chance to win every single night. And I have to believe that when you get to the postseason, that when you have a team that can do that, you have a team that can succeed and go on a long run.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with you. The divisional games usually do matter more. Obviously, you want that AL East crown. So when you have the opportunity to stump on their necks, I'm glad that the Rays were able to do that with the Jays and take 3 out of 4 this week. Yeah.
Yep. And my last note on this series is we're not a Blue Jays pod, but like I was curious what your opinion of this is. What's going on with the Jays? Like, what is going on? Like, this team was supposed to be the second coming for like the last 3 years, and we're at the end of May, and they're 10 games back in the East, and they're a couple games back in the wild card. Like, what do you think about this team? Like, what's going on?
Oh, I'm so happy you asked this question because I'm about to go off. Look, we did a MLB Power Rankings throughout all the Locked On MLB hosts, and I believe the Blue Jays were top 10 and the Rays were top 12. And I went off because I was like, what have the Blue Jays done at all to respect this, to get them this respect? I don't understand. 2020 in a season where everybody played 60 games, they get swept in the playoffs by the Rays. 2021, they don't make the playoffs. 2022, they make the playoffs. They're the host and they get swept at home. 2023, they get a little bit more defensive help, trade off some offense. So you think they're going to be a little bit better, and they haven't proven anything, and people still give them this whole type of love. I don't understand it. Look, I think on paper it's all fine and dandy, but the game isn't played on paper or spreadsheets. It's played by human beings on the field, and they really haven't shown that they are a cohesive unit. Can they go off and prove me wrong? Sure. I hope not, but look, they had a players-only meeting after that Thursday loss against the Rays. There's been talk about not enough leadership in that clubhouse. Bichette has said some things. Charlie Montoyo being fired last season. I don't. It's kind of like the White Sox. You see the talent on paper, but it's just somehow not coming together on the field. So that's for somebody maybe closer to the Jays to maybe pinpoint what exactly is going on. But I just don't particularly understand the love that everybody gives to that team just because what's on paper. I just don't understand that.
You have these uber talented individuals on their team, and I think what's part of it too is they've been so vocal about about the success that they intend to be going on. The last season was the preview. This is the movie. Like, I mean, that looks horrible now, but like
small movie, man, very short
movie, very short. And so you look at what all the trash they've been talking, and you even see it in the games they've been playing with the Yankees series that they played. They were chirping back and forth the whole time. Yeah. There was some chirping here. And I mean, even like to me, and I mean, I don't really care if you run up the score, but like, running up the score 20-1, like, okay, all right, like let's relax. And hitting grand slams off position players, like they all count the same, whatever. But I'm like, okay, like, what are we doing here? And then, they're getting upset when we're pimping home runs and everything. And it's like they just have no cohesion as a unit, like emotionally, it feels like they don't have, because like, who's the leader of that team? Is it Vlad? Is it Bo Bichette?
I mean, yeah.
Like, who's the leader? Like, Kiermaier he can be a leader, but he just got there. Like, who is there?
You can't step into a different home and just be like, all right, I'm the leader now. Like, that just doesn't work. So it can't be KK. And Bichette and Vladdy, I mean, they came up at the same time. So can they be co-captains? Maybe. One dude almost won an MVP, and the other one's a batting champ, basically. So I don't know, man. That's a good question. I think there's a lot of turmoil there in that clubhouse. So hopefully, for the Rays' sake, that does not end. But I would like them to get a little bit better and to give a little bit more of trouble to the Yankees and the Red Sox for sure.
Yeah, if they could just get good when they could somebody please beat the Orioles? That's my other two. Somebody please beat the Orioles. Like,
thank you, Rangers.
Thank you, Rangers. Thank you, Texas Rangers. My word. Like, that's like we're in a world right now where I am actually mildly concerned about the Orioles. Like because I keep expecting them to start losing and they just don't. And I'm very, I'm excited for them. That's super fun. My dad's a huge Orioles fan, so he's on cloud nine right now because he's basically like given up on them for years now, and then finally they're succeeding. But I mean, I think honestly, if you're a Blue Jays fan, if you look at what's happening to the White Sox or what has happened to the White Sox, I think you have to be concerned because, to be honest with you, the script that the Blue Jays are on is almost identical to the White Sox script. The talk a big game, have all this talent, and never quite get there, and then it all falls apart. And I think this Blue Jays team, they need to do something to get it right, whether it's acquiring some talent or somebody stepping up as a leader, because otherwise this team could. I mean, could we see another manager get fired? Could we see it really devolve? I don't know, but I think it's some rough sledding for the rest of the season for the Blue Jays. They got to figure something out fast.
Yeah, and again, like I said, and you did too, hopefully they just figure it out when they're playing the Yankees and the Red Sox. The rest of the games, I hope that chaos still lingers.
Yep. And speaking of chaos lingering, we've had some chaotic games against the Dodgers so far. We had a really nice win in the first game of the series. Last night was a tough loss because you played well. It's tough to see it's tough to lose the Glasnow start because you'd really like. It's funny because you win the Cooper Criswell start and then you lose the Glasnow start. You're like, I would have rather those be flip flopped if I could have chosen. But I think it was a really big deal to win the Cooper Criswell start. I was very happy with that win in the first game of that series, considering who we were pitching. They did a great job. They did a phenomenal job, and we got to their guy, and I was very impressed with that first win, to be honest with you.
Timely hitting, good defense, good pitching. I mean, that's just race baseball, and that's exactly what happened. Now, Cooper Criswell, he stepped up, man, because you talked about that last game. That last game against the Brewers, and he did not pitch well at all. And then he comes back, and then he shoves, and that was really nice to see. Especially there was a couple minutes there where the broadcast showed him and Tosh Bradley kind of talking after he was taken out. That was really nice to see those two guys, talking shop. But look, the Saturday game, I was at the game. I had to go see the Glasnow start live. He looked good. 8 cases, awesome. Obviously, he did get hurt with a couple of runs there, but it's good to see Harold Ramirez still with finding that power stroke. He's amazing, honestly. The one thing that just keeps biting the Rays, it's not the offense. The offense is awesome. It's not the starters. The starters are awesome. It's not the defense. The defense is impeccable. It's not the base running. The base running has improved so much since 2022. So I only have one thing that is not doing their job, and that's the bullpen. The bullpen is not doing what it's supposed to do, and it's not doing what Rays fans are accustomed to. Rays fans are accustomed to elite bullpen. That's it. Top 5. Top 10 at worst. You look at this bullpen, man, and it's been underperforming. And I went to see, I was like, okay, when did it start really going off for this bullpen? And I don't know if you remember that Chicago White Sox series. You remember the last game and the White Sox came back, right, with Clevenger and all that?
I do remember that.
Okay, so that was April 30th. So after that, there's been a month worth of game. And I wanted to see, okay, what has been happening since that game? So a month worth of games, and this is where the Rays bullpen ranks. They rank last in F4. Let's not forget that there's an Oakland Athletics team that has won 10 games in 2 months, people. Yeah. So they rank last in F4. They rank last in K per 9. They rank last in home runs per 9. They rank last in whip. They rank last in FIP. They rank 29th in ERA. They rank 28th in left on base percentage, and they rank, I think, 27th in ERA, which, or 29th in ERA, which, again, ERA for a reliever, you can take or leave it because, one blow up will cost you. But the point is, those are numbers, and they're staring at us, and they're telling us that this bullpen is really not performing. However, I do have a silver lining for people that want to see the glass half full. Two little things. Number one, hard hit rate. They're 12th. So it's kind of average. They're dancing around that. And then the BABIP is 7th highest at 325. So could they be getting BABIP? Is there luck to turn around very soon? Hopefully. But the bullpen has been underperforming by not only Ray standards, but by league standards.
My take on it is that I think that you're right. It's been a very rough month, and it's not what we expect. I think it's kind of like, it's kind of a catch-22 because we expect such great things from this bullpen that any underperformance is seen as like a huge deal, and it's definitely not been good this last month. It's been tough to watch for some starters. But I think you made a really good point. Is the point that I was going to make, that the some of these numbers are based on things that I think are going to even out as the season goes on. And to be honest, like the fact, my hope is that this is their month that they're going to struggle, and like, if you're going to struggle, if you're going to have to work some things out, if you're going to have some kinks, let it be in May. Let it be April. Let it be June. Let's have these months where you have to work these things out. And to give the bullpen a little bit of credit here, we also have to take into consideration that of the 5 starters that we were planning to start the season with, everyone but Shane has spent time on the IL, and we lost Rass and Springs for the season. So like this rotation is, has really puts a strain on the bullpen.
Sure.
The rotation, when they've been healthy and been out there, have done a really good job.
Yeah.
The issue is that they haven't been out there. And so then you've been putting a lot of pressure on your bullpen to perform, because you just have to have them eat a lot of innings. That's why it's such a big deal when Shane and Eflin go 7 innings back to back. It's a cause for celebration. Because you give them some rest. And I think that's kind of been, a story that we've seen throughout the season is the bullpen has been getting taxed a lot, and it's not been able to handle, what we've normally seen. And some of it's been injury. Losing Garrett Clevenger for the season is not ideal as well. And I think they have a lot of guys that are trying to find themselves. I think Poche had been doing a really good job until last night. It just, and last night just, every reliever has a tough night. It's tough, that he had a bad night last night because it was such a good start by, Glasnow coming off the injured list. You would have loved to win that game. So it kind of looks worse than it is when you give up those runs in that spot. It looks worse than it actually is, in my opinion. But I think a lot of this stuff.
The hits also came from Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman.
That's very true.
So,
it's very true.
It's okay. It's rough, but also he did let Miguel Rojas get on base too, which again, that's not a guy, number 9 guy that you should be letting in on. And yes, they're MVP guys, but what kind of team do we believe that the Rays are? Do we believe as a fandom that the Rays are just a playoff team, or that they're a tier above that and they're a World Series contender? My opinion, I believe that this Rays team is a World Series contender. Mm-hmm. They're a top 4 team in the league, and I think they will be by the end of this season. A top 4 team cannot have these deficiencies, even against MVP guys, because guess who you're going to be facing in order to win the World Series? MVP sort of guys. So again, you can't say anything wrong about any other category that the Rays are doing. The hitting, the base running, the defense, the starting pitching. The bullpen, they need to step it up. Now, can Jake Diekman become what we thought Garrett Clevenger could be? I hope so. He looks kind of good. Does Kevin Kelly become a Ryan Thompson of 2020? And with that funky delivery, give something really nice for the bullpen? I hope so too. Trevor Kelly looks also like a guy that could provide some meaningful innings. And it looks like the Rays are keeping that turnstile going in the bullpen, which is great to see from the front office. Look, these guys are not working. Swap them out. Like somebody in which makes you think Zach, and I was talking to Kevin and Evan Klosky about this. How many guys in that bullpen do you believe have job security? And by job security, I mean, like, no matter how badly they're doing, they have a job until October. Like, how many guys in that bullpen can you tell me they have job security right now?
2.
And who are those 2?
It's Jason Adam and Pete Fairbanks.
I agree with you, because we just saw Ryan Thompson being optioned.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't behoove, if anybody else gets traded, or so you're telling me that, and I agree with you, that there are 5 jobs out for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great if you're a Trevor Kelly. That's great if you're a Kevin Kelly, because you can say, hey, this is my moment. I'm going to take that job. Jake Diekman. So I'm glad that the front office keeps turning guys out. Joe LaSorsa is going to be helping out the Rays hopefully this weekend. We saw friend of the pod, Ben Heller, almost make his debut with the Rays. Unfortunately, he got optioned down the next day and couldn't pitch. But I'm glad to see the front office is keeping that turnstile going, because it lets the fandom know, hey, we know the bullpen is an issue, and we're doing our best to get guys in there that can help us. It would be worrisome if I read all of those stats where they rank last and the front office is just twiddling their thumbs and not doing anything, and guys have job security. That would be a problem. The way that the front office is doing this makes me feel happy.
And I think the other big benefit that when you look at, if you're concerned about the bullpen, the other big benefit I think that I would say that the Rays have is the way that they view AAA and the way that they view Durham and how they're using it. And that is, it's getting sent down to AAA in some organizations. We talked about this with Ben Heller, that getting sent down to AAA in some organizations is seen as a demotion and seen as, you suck, go down, go figure it out. In the Rays, it's less of that and more of, we need you to go work on this. Go work on it in AAA where you can not worry about the consequences. Go work on these things and come back up in a couple of weeks, and we'll need you. We need you. We're going to need you. Because the truth is, we've needed all these innings have to be pitched, whether you like it or not. Somebody's got to pitch these innings. So say whatever you want about Zach Birdie, but guess what? Those innings had to be pitched by somebody. And I would much rather he pitch those innings than Jason Adam and Pete Fairbanks have to pitch those innings, or whoever else. Continue to burn these are guys that we consider our high leverage guys. So I think the benefit that the Rays have over some organizations is when you do this, what we're doing right now is this turnover in the bullpen, that the messaging from the Rays is not, you're bad, go to AAA and think about what you did. It's, hey, we're going to give you a chance to work on some things that you've been struggling with in a low pressure environment, and then we're going to need you. So go figure it out, because we need you to come back up in a couple of weeks. So I think that that's an advantage that the Rays have, where that they can truly find their best 7 guys throughout this season, because they're utilizing more than just the major league level to find that. They're using the minor leagues. There's guys, I think Ben Heller is going to pitch, and not just because he came on the pod, I think he's going to pitch major league innings this year. I think he has really good stuff, and I think there's going to be a time where they're going to need some value out of him. So I think that they're using what they have to their advantage, and they're going to find the 7 best arms that exist in this organization by the end of the year. And who those best 7 arms are, I'm not sure. I think I have a kind of a rough idea, but who knows who those best 7 arms are going to be. Will they trade for somebody? Maybe, but I don't necessarily know that they need to. I just think they are going to take their time and let this happen, because the truth is, as much as we're upset about the way the bullpen is playing, we still have the best record in Major League Baseball by 4 games.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, as much as it definitely has hurt us, they're still winning games. They're still leading the division by 4 games. I'd love to be leading it by more, but we're still leading by 4 games, and I don't expect that to go away anytime soon. So they'll get it. I have faith that they'll get it figured out. It may take longer than we'd like, but I have faith in this front office and faith in Kevin Cash to figure this out.
If there's something that you should put a blindfold on and have complete trust in this Rays organization, going to be their pitching. I think they've done enough in the last 15 years for you to know, if you're a Rays fan, to know pitching will work itself out. But it's so, again, like I said, it's nice to know that they're just spewing guys in and out and seeing what's going to stick. Who's going to be the guy? It seems like Jake Diekman could be that guy. Joe LaSorsa, watch out, that could be it. But that's true. You got to keep that on, and hopefully the guys that come up do their job and take one of those positions, because they're there for the taking.
They absolutely are. And, as we've seen the Rays have this rotation of relievers, I want to talk to you about what's your rotation of your T-shirts look like? What's your rotation of your daily T-shirts look like? If you feel like your daily T-shirt rotation is lacking, I have a solution for you. And that is shop.rblr.com, where you can get some excellent shirts to add to your rotation. Get a Devil Ray shirt. Get some of our new shirts we put out this year that are capitalizing on some really cool things that the Rays are doing. And if you want 10% off of those shirts to help improve your T-shirt rotation, use promo code Flappy for 10% off everything on the store. So if you feel like some of these T-shirts, they're not performing, man, they're not getting the job done. Go call up some of these T-shirts from AAA to put into your T-shirt rotation, so you can have the best game every single day.
Very nice, very nice. You got to check that out, guys. I have another question for you regarding the bullpen. So there are 3 names that we hope will come back, or actually make their first start, or their first relieving appearance. Shawn Armstrong, apparently he's going to come back in June. Colby White and Andrew Kittredge. Now, I'll give you my view, and you can tell me if you agree or you disagree. I think there's a lot of pressure that Rays fandom is putting on these 3 guys. Shawn Armstrong, he did tremendous at the end of the season. I think starting with that impromptu start when Shane McClanahan got taken out in Miami, that was awesome to see Shawn Armstrong kind of develop into that guy, and they were kind of stretching him out. Good stuff. But let's not forget that he was the mop-up guy last season before that.
Yeah.
Number 2, Colby White. Tremendous stuff in AAA. He basically did a tour of AA and AAA in 1 year. Looked amazing. Reliever of the year. Boom. Tommy John has never pitched in Major League Baseball. And people are like, don't worry, Colby White is coming. And it's like, well, he's coming back from Tommy John and has never faced MLB pitching. And number 3, Andrew Kittredge. Tremendous All-Star 2021 season. Not so great in 2022. Falls down to Tommy John and now could rejoin the team in August. Those 3 guys, there's so much pressure by Rays fandom saying everything will be okay. These 3 guys are coming. But like I just said, it's basically question mark, question mark, question mark. Is that fair to say?
I think it is somewhat fair to say. I think Shawn, if you look at those 3, I think Shawn Armstrong is the most sure thing out of those. He's been pitching in AAA. He's looked pretty good so far. I think he can come back and be a significant contributor. I could say that with some confidence. Colby White, I'll be honest with you, I expect him to have a cup of coffee in the major leagues this year, and that's about it. If he has one at all, okay. I am not mentally relying on Colby White at all. I think he needs to come back. He needs to pitch some innings. If he gets called up to the majors, it'll either be because he's just absolutely tearing it up, which would be great, or because we just need it. We just need an arm up there, which I don't foresee that happening. They have enough guys who they can get up to have some some MLB relief appearances if necessary. I don't anticipate seeing Colby White at the major league level this year. I could be wrong. That I wouldn't mind being wrong. But I don't expect to see it. Andrew Kittredge is a complete coin flip. I have no idea. That's the one where I have no clue whatsoever. Could he come back and be great? Maybe. I really have no idea. I'm really not mentally, I'm not mentally thinking that any of those 3 are going to contribute. My thought is really going is guys like Luis Patino. I think he's a guy that can contribute at a major league level in a bullpen role, because it seems like that's where they're shifting him to. If you look at the way his innings have been in AAA the last couple of weeks, they're shifting him to see if he could do relief appearances, and they're working on his arsenal. I think a lot to see what will play the best in that relief role. So there's some work to be done there. But if you're looking for someone to be a savior, or that can be a guy that comes up and relieves the relief pitchers a little bit, I would look to Patino and Armstrong before I would look to Kittredge and Colby White.
Okay, that's fair enough to say. I hope Patino figures it out, man. He's young, so that's definitely a positive, because you can't give up on a guy that's 22 and has electric stuff like that. But the results have not been there so far. With Shawn Armstrong, I agree with you. He might be the guy that might have the most innings from those 3. So hopefully, but I think he doesn't even slide in as a high leverage guy. If anything, he slides into a Zach Birdie type of inning where, okay, we're losing by 3. Can you bridge us the 6th and the 7th? Can you be a guy like that? Which is great, because that would be an improvement from the guys that are being asked right now to cover the 5th and 6th when you need to cover them. So he would be an improvement. But I do think they're keeping their options open. I think they will get an arm or two during the trade deadline, either June or July. I think so, because this team is very special, man. It is incredibly special. And I don't think it's a secret for any Rays fan that the bullpen is the one that is the shakiest in all the categories. Look at every category. They're doing amazing. It's the bullpen. It's the flaw. So can they fix that flaw? I think they can. I think they will. And I think they'll do that not only by, in-house depth, like you said, but I do believe that they're going out and going to get, look, Nick Anderson was gotten basically by Jesus Sanchez. And they got the Silver Fox as well. I'm blanking on the name. Silver Fox. You remember the Silver Fox?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh my word, what is his name? I can see his face. He's playing for the Blue Jays right now.
Yes. Okay, the Silver Fox. We know.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. By Jesus Sanchez. So there, and we all know what Nick Anderson did in 2019, in 2020. So you don't have to trade a Mead, a Manzardo, a Trevor Richards. That's him.
Trevor Richards. That's who it was.
Richards.
Yes.
So the Rays were able to get Nick Anderson and Trevor Richards with Jesus Sanchez. Who is that Jesus Sanchez? Is that a Vidal Brujan? Is that a Jonathan Aranda? It doesn't have to be Manzardo, Mead, or Bradley for you to go get, or a Junior Caminero to get you a high leverage arm. The Rays are very good at finding those hidden gems. So when people say like, oh, if you want Hendricks, you don't need to you're the Rays. You don't need to go for the name. You need to go for the one that is not being utilized correctly. And you can do that. And you don't have to get rid of a Mead Manzardo type player. Now, I know some people might be Vidal Brujan fans, and there are definitely Jonathan Aranda fans. But what I'm getting at is that you don't have to take off your top tier prospects for you to revitalize that bullpen and really make this 2023 Rays team the best ever.
Absolutely. And I think that, they kind of have already done that a little bit. I think Diekman is going to end up pitching some really meaningful innings. I've really been impressed with his stuff so far. Yeah. His delivery is just so uncomfortable, I think, for pitchers, for hitters to face. I'm really excited about him. I'm excited to see what he continues to do. I think they're going to figure it out. And I think you're 100% right. And I'm excited to see what they do to figure that out. But one thing that the Rays have figured out is they have some really good performances from everywhere else outside of the bullpen, what we've been talking about. Want to highlight a couple of those players in our bat and arm of the week. My arm of the week this week is someone whose performance was contrasted against what happened in that 20-1 loss to the Blue Jays the previous day, and that is Josh Fleming, who, when you look at the way that the Blue Jays offense can explode on anyone, it makes to me what Fleming did over 6 innings even more impressive. Only 1 walk, 5 hits, two earned runs given up, 6 innings. He only struck out 2, but he only needed to strike out 2. He's getting the soft contact. He's getting the double plays when he needs to get them. I think he got 2 double play balls. He's super meaningful, super important innings, and to get those 6 innings out of him, he's just consistently performing really well. I know he's kind of a scapegoat a lot of times when you look at the rotation. People will say that he's kind of a weak link. He's pitching right now. I don't know how that game is going. And for everyone watching at home, we're recording like just slightly before the game, so I don't know exactly what's going on right now. So I hope he's doing a really good job and makes me look good as I'm saying this. But I think Josh Fleming's a really valuable arm in this rotation, and he was my most impressive performance this week.
That's a tremendous pick, man. I think he's been an easy target since 2020, where he was awesome. Where the Rays fandom has been able to just kind of like pinpoint and be like, he's not doing his job. He's not doing his job. I think 2023, it started like that. Like, he's not doing his job. And then he basically has had, I think, 3 blowups in 12 starts or 12 games appeared, which is, look, if that's your 5th starter giving you 9 really good outings and 3 bad ones, I mean, you'll take that. And by the way, one of those bad outings was against the Nationals, and the Rays won that game. So even then, it's been great. Now, I will give you a little bit of an update. The Rays are currently down 3-1 in the bottom of the second. And so that is what's happening. And Fleming, 2 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs. So maybe another blow up. Hopefully not, though.
Hopefully he gets it under. He has shown that he can get it back under control. It looks like. Let me take a look. What do we got here? Yeah, he got hit hard twice, and then it's a couple of some blue pits. So hopefully he can figure it out down there. Did you have someone who was impressive to you this week in particular?
I did. For the arm section, I had Zach Eflin, man. I think not only over this season, but the last, I went basically from Saturday to this Saturday, and that was 2 starts, both of which he went 7 innings, a 2.57 ERA, walking basically nobody at 1.29 walks per 9. Also, the strikeouts are low at 5.1 per 9, but I'm loving that left on base percentage, man, at 87%. I mean, he just is stranding base runners, and that is lovely to see. I feel like, when you give a guy the most money ever as a free agent, if you're the Rays, that something is going to happen positive for your club. And year to date, man, 7-1 record, a 3.17 ERA, 54 innings, 52 Ks. But I love this. 1.02 whip. He's in the 97th percentile in the walk rate. So he's really giving himself a good opportunity for clean innings by not, giving them free base runners. And I love that from a pitcher.
Yeah, he has been such an important piece of this rotation of this team this year. When you think about where this team would be, considering the injuries we had, if we did not have Zach Eflin, that's somewhere I don't want to think about. That's not a happy place. But he's been such an important part of this team. He's just so consistent. I feel like, and the other guy that I considered for this week was Shane, who just is he's just money every single time. I've given him my arm of the week like 3 weeks in a row, so I wanted to take a break because he's just money every single time he goes out there. He's money every single time. But yeah, I've been super impressed with Eflin's performance so far. I cannot wait to see what as he continues to get comfortable with the Rays organization, how what the heights he can get to. But he's just been a super fun arm to watch so far this season. Speaking of fun to watch, my bat of the week is the guy that I put out a tweet about him. I don't know if he's still leading, but he is as far as I know, he's the leader in Baseball Reference WAR and Fangraphs WAR this season. That's Wander Franco, who, despite the disparaging articles from Mark Tompkin, which I don't even want to get started on that. I about blew a gasket when I saw those headlines and read the article. It's just such a nitpicky, like, come on, dude.
Dude, you know what that screamed at me? It screamed at he was like, oh man, I need to fill my Wander quota, but I've got nothing to say. And the paper really wants the Wander content. Okay, I guess I'll write about this. It just felt so fluff and like
it's so bad. And like you could have talked about how he's the leading in WAR, how he's third in baseball in stolen bases. Today I looked at the name today. He scored the Rays' only run so far today. He got on base and was the run scored today. He's such a weapon on the base paths. His defense is only improving. I know this is bad of the week, but his defense is really improving as well on the infield. And he is such a difficult out every single time he's up to the plate. He's a switch hitter. You just get the idea that when a pitcher is facing him, they have to work to get him out every single time. And that is what is so fun about his presence in this lineup is he just makes everybody around him better because every pitcher who comes up against them knows I have to get this guy out, and he's not going to go down easily. He'll take his walks if you give it to him. If he gets on base, he's going to steal bases. He's just so dangerous. He's electric. He is the face of the franchise, and he is becoming a superstar right before our very eyes. And he's on pace for 9 WAR this season. It's just so much fun to watch.
He's on pace to get MVP votes, man, and he's not the only Ray to do that. I'm glad you picked Wander. I was going to pick him. I ended up not wanting to because I feel like I talk a lot about Wander already, but I'm glad that you picked him.
You should.
You have to talk about.
You have to talk about Wander.
You have to talk about Wander, man. He's been great, and I think the most impressive thing is when we talk about Luis Patino. Really hope he figures it out. There's time to figure it out. There's so much talent there. You gotta tap that in. You have to be patient. Wander Franco's the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what Wander is doing is not. It's Juan Soto type. It's Ronald Acuna Jr. type. It's
Yep.
Vladdy type. It's Tatis Jr. type. Like, he's in that echelon. And starting the season, we made like MVP prognostications for the team. And Wander was my pick because if you go down that list of all those players I just mentioned, 22 seemed to be their big breakout year. And Wander's 22. So my whole thesis was he's going to break out at 22 years old. And it seems like that. But he was not my pick for bad of the week. For bad of the week, I have to go to a guy that is an unsung hero, and he will always be, because when the offense is working the way that it is, this guy's not going to get a lot of spotlight, and his name is Luke Raley. In 19 plate appearances, look at this very silly, very stereotypical slash line. 214 batting average, 421 on base, 714 slugging. That's a silly 1135 OPS. He had 2 home runs in this week from Saturday to Saturday, 7 runs scored, 2 RBI. But, and this is where I want to go off on Luke Raley, he had a sneaky 3 stolen bases this week. Now, the sprint speed is at 8 in the 81st percentile. That might surprise some Rays fans. That's fast. That's faster than Randy Arozarena, people. Okay, that's faster than Randy, and it gives me shades of Avi Garcia in 2019 because he's a big guy that you wouldn't think he's so fast, but then he kind of amazes you with his speed. Although Avi was faster than Luke Raley, I think Avi was in the 90th percentile in 2019, and Luke is at in the 81st. But he's destroying fastballs this year. I mean, he just slugging over 660. So don't throw him a fastball, but that's usually what they're throwing at him 52% of the time, and he's not missing them. With the off speed and the breaking pitches, that's a little bit of a different story. He's struggling mightily, but if they keep grooving fastballs, this guy's going to do damage.
Yeah, and I think my co-host Ben would be happy to hear Luke Raley getting some shine here, because he's definitely earned it. And I think that we're going to continue to see Luke Raley because, frankly, he's earned the playing time. He is earning the playing time every single day, going out there. Whenever they put him in the lineup, he's performing, and it's been fun to watch him continue to perform. We kind of, we were on this podcast, we were very high on Luke Raley entering the season, and so it was very fun to see him continue to perform and continue to just do a great job every time he goes out there. His on base and slugging is it's so funny to see the disparity between his batting average and all his other metrics. It's just an interesting way to look at modern baseball, where you have a player that is his batting average is approaching the Mendoza line, and yet he's OPSing 1,000. It's just he is a modern baseball player if there ever was one.
And this is how well it's going now up to today. Well, by the way, he did score a run, and the Rays have now tied the game 3-3
off the bat of Wander Franco.
Look at that. Luke Raley scores a run, and he hit a double, and now his average is up to 250. So this is the type of incredible season that Luke Raley is having. I think he deserves some praise. But, of course, he might not get a lot of praise because when you have Yandy, when you have Wander, when you have Randy, when you have Harold Ramirez, when you have Isaac Paredes, when you have Josh Lowe, my goodness, Taylor Walsh resurrecting his career offensively. It's going to be tough for Luke to get the spotlight, but he deserves it nonetheless.
Yep. He's played super well. I am excited to see, I'm curious to see, exactly how long he continues to stay with the Rays. I hope it's the whole season. I hope he sticks around because I think he's just a super fun player to watch. I enjoy it every time he's up to bat because he's a threat to launch every time he's up to bat. And he's just been a super fun player to watch. And I'm very glad the Rays gave him a chance and said, we think we got something in this guy. Let's see what you can do. And we've just benefited from watching this guy perform and go out there and do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, that was the biggest thing that the Rays needed, right? It was, okay, we need left-handed pop. We have zero. We have nothing here. And then they come out of that wild card series that basically is still giving us cold sweats at times. Yeah. And we all remember Eric Neander and Kevin Cash in the front office and Peter Bendix. They came out and said, if we stand pat, we've done something wrong. We cannot stand pat. We need offense. And guess what? It takes two to tango. They offered contracts to free agents. The free agents didn't bite. They might not have wanted to go to Tampa. They might not have believed in the organization. B, whatever reason, nobody really signed defensively. And now they have Josh Lowe and Luke Raley as opportunities to get some playing time, providing some pop from the left-handed box. And they're like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to give these guys a shot. And what is most amazing is that this isn't like you and me knowing this. Like, not only the Rays fan base knows what they needed, the front office, the GM, the Kevin Cash is saying it out there. We need pop from the left-hand side. And now these guys, Luke Raley and Josh Lowe, are given the opportunity. They know this too. So talk about their mental fortitude, knowing that this pressure is on both of them to provide exactly that left-handed pop. And they come out and do exactly that. I mean, what they're doing, it not only is awesome to see as a fan, but just as a human being, knowing that they are going through that much pressure and they're letting it rub off their shoulders and still be able to succeed. That's a very, very cool human thing.
And I think what is such a huge part of that is the mindset and the mentality of this clubhouse and of this organization to believe in these players, and the atmosphere that's been created is just so positive that it's allowing these guys to have the faith that, like, hey, I can go out and strike out. I'm not going to get sent down. I'm not going to get cast away after one bad performance. Like, we're going to give you guys that. We're going to give you a chance. We believe in you guys. We believe we can succeed, and we're seeing the dividends of that. Yeah. So this is I've been saying it all year. This is a good time to be a Rays baseball fan. It just is. Yeah. This is. I don't know if there's ever been a better time to be a Rays fan. We're seeing a superstar coming into his own. We're seeing great starting pitcher performances, and even with the couple of struggles we're having from the bullpen, we're still winning at an insane clip. It's a good time to be a Rays fan, and I'm just excited to see where this season continues to go.
It's giving you flashbacks of that 2008 to 2013 run where, like, again, you look at what you said, success on the field. Yep. We saw that in 08 to 13. A superstar coming into his own. Yep, we saw that. Evan Longoria becoming, the guy in Tampa Bay, and great starting pitching. Yeah, we saw that. Shields, Price, Hellickson, Archer, all of those guys coming through. So it does give you flashbacks of that window. The only thing that window missed was a World Series victory. They do have that World Series appearance in 08. They did have that World Series appearance in 2020. Can they finally push through and get it done this year? I hope so. I think they do have the capability to do so. Just got to tighten up some screws there and be able to maneuver that those bullpen flaws that they have right now.
Yep, I completely agree. Before the season began, I picked them to win the World Series. I have not changed my opinion once since the season has started. I've only been more confident in that. And speaking of winning, which the Rays are currently doing right now, I just saw that they have two men on the bottom of the second. Brandon Lau, the much maligned Brandon Lau, had a RBI single, which is great to see.
Good.
And the Rays are coming out on top. Hopefully they can hang on, and looks like Paredes is up, and hopefully he can do some damage. He's been a great contributor as well. Ooh. But I mean, it's just a good time to be a Rays fan, and it's a good time to listen to the RBLR Rays podcast with our special guest. Thank you for coming on today. It's been a huge blast to have you on to have you as a guest. Anything you want to plug before we sign off?
Well, again, thank you again so much for having me. It's always a good time to talk Rays baseball and baseball nonetheless with you, Zach. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
You guys can always catch Locked On Rays on YouTube at Locked On Rays. You can also follow us on social media at Locked On Rays on either Instagram or Twitter. You have my handle right below my name if you're watching on YouTube at Sambrano Ulises. So we always talk Monday through Friday Rays baseball in around 30-minute episodes, so you get that immediacy of what's happening day to day. And, of course, our Friday episodes, as you well know, Zach, we try to have some fun with baseball trivia and Name That War. And those are always kind of fun. So if you guys want to get more race information, go check us out at Locked On Race.
Absolutely. And as always, like and subscribe down here to us at RBLR Sports. We're gonna keep coming at you with great content. Ben will be back next week. Missed you, Ben. Hope you're doing well. And we thank you guys for coming and joining us today. Go Rays. Enjoy the game, guys.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.